With me, you're talking like you think you're royalty. You think that I'm afraid, but I don't break. I heard you question my stability. You think I'll fall just like a guillotine, but I am here to stay, won't look away. The storm is coming, so you better start running. No, you can't control, feel it in my bones. I'm coming for the, coming for the. Coming for the throne.
Hello and welcome back to the Fantasy Take TV podcast. We are here to discuss a bit of round 11, discuss quite a few things actually. I think George is currently refreshing David Zeta's Twitter account to see if Laird is off.
That makes two of us.
I think JD will be doing the same, but we'll get across all that. The agenda for today will be obviously our rounds, how we went, MVP, the fault, the news, which we'll probably get straight to off the top. CPP, who's relevant there, who's come in. The buys, obviously they start this week, so a bit to discuss there. How do we attack those, some targets, strategy as well, and then Q&A at the end. So, we'll just welcome in, a few people in the chat. Jordan, we're obviously looking at the suspensions. Noah, LAIRDS trial's right now. Trial. It sounds like it's
been deliberating. They've been deliberating for about 18, 19 minutes at this point. So we're getting very close to a yay or a nay on that.
Yeah. I guess while we wait for that, George, how did your week go, mate? You're muted before you get talking, but MVP and fault, and how'd you score?
All right, last week. It's hard to concentrate with this LAIRD news. I could settle when it comes out, but see how we go. This week was all right, 2,403. Ranked 1,748. So as much as I'm happy with the progress that's been made over the past month, I do feel like I'm going to piss it down the drain this week with a few issues. But trades were in Sicily and Humphrey. Very happy, kind of happy with that. Out Oliver and Simpson. So part of the reason to get Oliver was, one, I was in trouble for this week, and two, Sicily had the role change, I guess you could say, that he mentioned in the presser. So and then Oliver looks like he'll be back in 2 weeks. So I think it's like, you generally hold 2-week injuries, so that's fine. But I think I'm okay with those ends. So is what it is. MVP and fault of the week was, I think the fault has to be Rory Atkins. Can't believe I put so much faith in this bloke. Actually, you can have Atkins and explain that one, but I'll take Jack Steele. I think Steele, I've made excuses for him nonstop, and I can't make anyone for that performance. Just hope that the bye does him some good. Now, the MVP, I don't know if I can give it to Sicily or not, considering it's, 85 points over 2 weeks now. So I think the MVP, I'm going to give it to Humphrey for that goal at the end. It was looking like a okay trade into a very good trade in after that heroic goal that won them the game. So Humphrey will be useful over the buys too. So shout out to Humphrey. I paid 280k, and not very often you're happy trading in a 280k non-keeper, but he went well. So happy with that. Jackson, how did you go?
Down week for me. So just the 2274, which dropped me 190 or so ranks out to 325 overall, which is still a good spot, and can make up a lot of ground during the buys. Last week was a bit of a disaster for me for those that were calling out my attitude, just being a little bit surly. But Oliver and Josh Kelly were the two that were injured. I decided to hold Oliver. My desktop research on hamstrings led me to believe it's 1 to 2 weeks, and that looks to be the case. It's going to be fall exactly kind of between them, I think, for when he's fit. But he'll end up waiting a second out of precaution. And I traded Josh Kelly into Laird, which looked like a pretty reasonable trade. I mean, I was going to say like Sicily would have been better, but I think either way I was waiting. You're going to lose a week on the on the other side. But yeah, Laird looks pretty good. So I'm very happy to pick him up and own him. And then I also traded in Bailey Humphrey from, I can't remember which rookie I got rid of. Cowan, I think I got rid of, the Cash Cowan. And yeah, I think, similar thoughts to you, George, like played a very good first half and then just looked to be a so-so trade. Guy that had cramping issues, playing up in the humidity, fading out in the second half, bit worried, but kicking the game-winning goal, just, yeah, nice little score to get the 70K this week and have a break-even of 11 is great. But I think most promising, the CBAs went up with him, and it looks like he'll be great covered during the buys, which I desperately need at the moment. Rounding out, Enno, I think you had a pretty good week as well, didn't you?
I did. So score-wise, 2-4-4-7, but really could have made up some more ground that I've lost at numerous points this year with Mills and Took, and there's been a lot of injuries, a lot of mishaps as we're experiencing this week as well. A lot more people are, but I was always, as it goes back to 2 weeks ago, my team and the issues that I caused myself in not going Stewart before Merritt because, wanted to go Merritt this week, had him into my team. We saw O'Neill dropped. I was like, okay, I got to get him in. He's got, West Coast this week, North next week. That was always the plan. Then O'Neill's a late in, sort of before the game. So I reversed that and go to Laird early in this and in fantasy. And as you said, great trade in Laird this week. But of course, just like Sicily, looks like likely to get a week. Because I wasn't able to sort of go Merritt and Laird in the one trade in this week with Clary, and I think it was Samson out, and I had a bit of cash in the bank. I was like 8K short of getting both those boys in. So if I did the reverse, Stewart and Merritt did the other way around the other week, it would have been all good. But I was like, okay, what's my next best? If I'm not going to get a prem, I could get a De Goey I was tossing up, a Macrae maybe looks like he's getting forward status. And I was like, nah, you know what? I'll bank the 280K. And since I'm not getting Merritt this week, I'll do it and get him, which is who I want the week after. So I'll get Rory Atkins. God, that turned out to be the hardest watch of my entire life. And I know we sort of said last week between the two of him and Humphrey, if no one had either, who would we get? I think I was leaning towards Atkins because it's the role and whatever. And he lost it straight away. The first game I get him, he's out to the wing. Joel Jeffrey's in taking kickouts, and he's just lost on the wing, running up and down on like who was he on, like Oscar Baker, and just doing nothing. So, 28, and I'm already looking at my team, and he's not there anymore, and that's the way I want to continue because stuff. I was against him to begin with, and look, in the role, it looked like it was going to be fine, but he got it straight away. So yeah, he's definitely my fault. But the MVP for the week probably is still Sicily. I know Jaws was tempted to go in, but didn't because he's suspended. But I've had him all year and rode the ups and downs, and it looks like he's finally come good. And we had the VC on him, so look, the points we lose this week of not having him, we got a bit with the captaincy. It's my first big captain of the year. I haven't hit anything 40 this year, so I wasn't actually watching the game, but I will take it. So yeah, he was my MVP for sure.
He gave away 250s as well.
I did miss that. So I saw he was on like 120.
Goodness.
I'm like, let's go. This is a 160. And then halfway through the fourth, I'm like, it's on 100. What the hell's happening?
Well, one of those 50s was early as well.
Yeah.
And I must say, as a non-owner, I was thinking about Sicily today, and it's really unfortunate that he's missing this week, in a week that people need the extra players. But to be honest, I think even with the week out, the trade is still a win. The points that you got and the cash means that I think it's just a win. It's could have been a much bigger win. But if you got a vice captain or captain on him, huge dub. If you didn't and you just traded him, I think that's still a big win as well. It's going to be very hard for others to bring him in now, just given the price and where people's teams are at. So I've kind of got him now as a top 4 defender from here to the year. I think I buy in that they're going to continue to free him up and give him this really nice role to the back end of the year. And I'm looking at my side going, with the way the buys fit and the fact I still need to get Dawson as well, I just can't see myself getting him. Or even if I do, I'm going to have to pay up massively. And yeah, honestly, he would have been a trade target for me, I think, this week if he wasn't out. And yeah, so I don't know. I think you guys will. It could have been much better than what it was, but I still think it's a good trade, and I still think you're going to be ahead as a result of it. So it's not all bad news, especially if you can still get 19 on the field this week.
Yeah, like I was going to say, JD, if he was playing this week, guys who didn't have him probably get him. You get 2 games before his bye, but the fact that he misses this week, he only plays next week and then has a bye. it's kind of hard to justify getting him next week if you're a non-owner, and then him having his buy straight up after. But you also, if you want him, kind of have to, because he's almost 600k now, or even is, and then has a really low break even again. So at least we have him. It looks like the role's good, George, and should be good from here out. Phoebe says he loves this potty. Any updates on Laird, boys, before we move on?
I saw someone in chat mention that the suspension has been upheld.
Don't read that as cat.
But yeah, Dave Zeta
has straight away.
Yeah, no, me too. I'm hitting refresh as well. Like F5. Like if you're looking off, it's my second screen. I'm looking.
But Dave just tweeted. He said he's my SuperCoach captain, so I'm as invested as you all are. I will be quiet now.
how based is that?
Good, Dave.
Yeah. Oh,
that's funny.
Okay. So yeah, no news yet. We're still waiting.
Well, we'll get through the news we do know of then, with some other suspensions and also some injuries. So yeah, Sicily we've spoken about. Obviously, got the 1 week for his sort of, ran past the ball and hit Kama, of all people. Shout out to Kama, but hit him and copped a week for that.
I think Sicily's in Kama's team too. So how would you feel? That's a double whammy. You got knocked up and you're losing for a week in SuperCoach.
Yeah, shout out Kama. I was hoping he could give some evidence and help him get off, but they didn't challenge, so he's gone. Parker's got upheld, for his, and then Chera, for whatever reason, Carlton's lawyers are best in the business, JD.
Undefeated. So. They are, I mean, that is just one of the elite hacks. They got Cripps off for a Brownlow last year. They got Chera off. Up until this point, no one else has been able to successly challenge one of these tackle penalties.
20, isn't it?
It's 1 in 17 now, thanks to Carlton's lawyers, who, I mean, it's about the only thing going right for the club at the moment. But you take the wins where you can get them, the 1%ers, and being able to save a week here or there. That's as good as, they talk about these elite high performance guys preventing injury, trying to save a week or two here or there from injured players. Well, they're saving weeks on the field with suspensions, and that is actually a legitimate advantage. So anyway,
JD trying to jab Carlton any chance he gets, George. You would admire that, I think.
I do enjoy Carlton downfall as much as every other neutral person, but I think their supporters have suffered enough, and they're probably in for a bit more in the near future.
As I'm about to read, so Holland's out for 8 weeks. Had a pretty promising.
That is sad.
Career,
that is very sad.
Maybe one of their bright spots. Hasn't dominated, but looked like not many kids come in and look set and ready at the level
elite
straight
runner
away.
As well.
And he has. So that 8 weeks, they reckon. Unfortunately, Cripps was it rolled his ankle and late in the
He says he's okay. I think on radio this morning.
So he'll get up,
Yeah.
Oh, I reckon, especially after some of the media going on this week, and good on him for standing up for himself. But
you do feel bad
I reckon
for him being at Carlton. I read someone put JD. Yeah. Mason Cox has more wins in his career than Patrick Cripps. That's a bit that's.
How many more games he played? About 70, 80? I mean, you got to remember,
Mason's played 100, obviously, and then was Cripps almost 200? Yeah, he has had some injuries. I don't know. Hewitt concussion, so it'd be at least 1 week. Sometimes they turn into 2, not sure. And then Cowan's a test with his finger. I think George put it there. Where hopefully he'll be back, but probably looking unlikely. And then Newman with his hammy is probably 3 to 4. They're saying so. I don't know what George is laughing at, but
just a comment I was replying to.
That's a lot of injuries for Carlton. So look, it opens up. I think Pitnet as well. I didn't mention. So Chincotto, if anyone's still got him on the bench, might be lucky there. Might get Jackson Binns. I think is a rookie price that we could possibly get if he comes into the team. So maybe opens up some opportunities there at Carlton. Clary, as I think George said at the top. JD's been obviously following that closely. Still has him. Might be back for the King's birthday.
Nah, he's definitely back. 100% back.
You reckon?
No way. Yeah, something have to seriously go wrong. He's already in training.
Yeah, correct. So something would have to go wrong.
Are you prepared for him to be subbed off at 3/4 time when the game's over?
I mean, if I only get a 140 out of him, so be it.
Who would be winning, Jordan? Do you think? That'd be a good match, don't you think?
Is it Melbourne Collingwood?
He'll be required.
Yeah.
He'll be required.
I don't think Melbourne are much good. Anyway,
I think we'll see.
They'll be coming off their bye though, and Collingwood won't have played theirs.
Yeah. I think it'll be a good game.
Wait, sorry, no, I've got that wrong. They still won't have played their bye. Anyway.
And then we move on to some other ones. Radagalia, if anyone's still got him, unfortunately, would have been probably a nice buy cover, but has done his hammy. I don't really have a time frame yet. Shrek as well. Unfortunately, I saw that. Well, I actually didn't see it live, but I was at the ground and missed it. Just getting something to drink. But yeah, the big fella was starting to dominate in that second quarter and went down, unfortunately. So seems like a medium one, which obviously got to trade him out. It's still 2 weeks, George, if that's what you've seen on the injury list, which is interesting.
Yes.
Might save Atkins' career for another 1 or 2 weeks. Not that I care about it, but maybe if I'm struggling, could keep him for one more. CJ still 3 weeks for the calf, so Weddle, Seamus, good for owners of them. LDU 1 to 2 weeks, so getting close. Has that been updated? I thought he might be close. Maybe it is.
LDU.
Yeah, maybe still one more.
Oh, they mentioned
1 to 2. I saw today.
I'm sure I saw a tweet saying that he's made good progress in his recovery.
Yeah, I thought I saw that in the fantasy chat or something. But
hold on, let me just quickly pull up. Yeah, it still says 1 to 2 on the website that was updated today. So
okay. Yep.
I mean that timeline's kind of has him coming back, I guess, after just before their bye. Yeah, so it could be the week before their bye.
Yep. Hunter Clark 4 to 6 with a knee, and then Dom Sheed's a test, as well as Dill Shield. So a few other ones there that might, affect some other picks, but nothing too relevant. Anyone else you want to talk about, boys, or any of relevance from those injuries? Or should we talk about that later?
I mean, I would say that it presents opportunities, right? I think the Darcy one is unfortunate, but he was going to be out anyway. And I do think, there's some good options that have presented themselves this week that we can talk through from that perspective. And then, the Carlton one, I think, could be blessings if we get Sin Cotter and then possibly a new debutant back. But it is going to be a little bit tricky with, once some of these guys returning, who holds, who doesn't. But it's good stuff. And then I guess... just quickly, it's sad news, but like McCartan out for the season, and no SuperCoach relevance, but just like really unfortunate, kind of like underpins why preventing concussion is so important at the moment. And just hope the best for his health.
Yep. We'll move on to some DPP in a second. No updates from Laird. I'm sure you guys will keep me updated once that.
It's been like over 35 minutes deliberating. This is the longest deliberation I've seen.
We'll knock the DPP out of the park. Obviously, and unfortunately, it hasn't been too relevant. So Gorn and Walsh missed out. Gorn by a B's, B's Pecker, 0.1%. So 34.9 in the end it was. And Walsh, pretty much the last 2 weeks, sort of knocked him out too much. So I sort of always was saying that he's only played half the games, so any big swing could affect that. And we saw that last week. And then on Friday night, Hewitt went down, and they got a few injuries anyway, so he was forced in there more as well. So doesn't get the DPP. Still think he'd be an okay pick, and they've got a few injuries in there now. He'll probably be playing a lot of midfield in the next few weeks. Jack Macrae, George, I'll go to you first. What are your thoughts with him? I know the timing probably isn't too great. They also have the worst buy along with the whole forward line pretty much. So low break even.
Oh, he's off. He's off.
Oh, look at JD.
Let's go.
Live reaction.
Are you serious?
Yes, Laurie it's succeeded. He's free to play against Gold Coast.
How good is
Look
that?
at the chat. Everyone's loving it. Let's go.
Get in there. Ooh, 2 and 17. Crom lawyers, get around.
Wow,
them, boys. Dang. Oh my god, I got him in both fantasy and SuperCoach.
That is so
big.
Same JD. Yeah.
Yes.
Fielding 17. Let's go.
The chat is popping off. Bang. Yeah, that's good. I'm happy for the
That's so
hell
good.
yeah.
Both my teams, to be fair. And Laird, it was pretty stiff. Neil was coming at a bit of pace, and I don't want to get into MRO talk because it's doing my head in as it is, but would have been pretty stiff to see him go down for that. So
I must say, like we're cheering this from a SuperCoach perspective, but they still haven't found the balance right between protecting the players and the players protecting themselves as well. And anyway. Let's keep moving on because we could get into a bit of a rabbit hole, and no one wants to hear us waffle on about MRO.
No, I was saying to George, you turn on the AFL shows now, it's 50% that every.
Yeah.
There's no footy talk anymore. Macrae, George, Much loved player hours. Look at him smiling
yeah,
through the
Macrae.
lead news.
I think he's laughing at Cal.
I've spent more time reading chat than Pat tuning in, but I'll zone in now. Jack Macrae. Okay, so I think JD had a good take on this. The problem with Macrae is he's my favourite player in this game since picking up in 2018. I had him pretty much every year since. So I would love to own Jack Macrae again. What does he
Especially
average?
as a forward? Like, come on,
know,
we've
so
never had
hasn't
that
been that
opportunity
since
before.
2017, I think.
Yeah, I know.
I had him in 2017 as a forward.
Yeah,
I think.
If you're building a Mount Rushmore of SuperCoach players, which might be a fun activity for another time, at least in the last 5-10 years, he's in there easy, hands
easily.
down.
Yeah. 41
So,
break even, George. 570k and the bad buy.
The CBAs are probably not going to be good because it was Treloar out this week, and this week, so last week he scored 140. So since then he was probably, what was he going at? Like low ton for most of the year?
101 or something. Yeah.
Okay, so then he had the big game 2 weeks ago where he kicked 2 goals, which he's not really a known goal kicker, but I guess he's a bit more in the forward half, I guess, so maybe he'll kick a few more this year. Scored the 140, no Treloar. This week, 140 again. No.
Yeah, 2 in
Yes,
a row.
sorry, this week 140 again. CBA's propped back up, but Libba had his first bad score for the year. So I'm guessing those points went to Macrae. So Libba scored 80. I think he's been going at 115, something like that for the whole year. And he hasn't had Libba hasn't had the massive games, but he's had no floor games. And this was his first floor game by far. So that's kind of where the points went. So if the points continue to go to Libba and Bont, it's hard to see Macrae score. And Treloar was scoring okay too. It's hard to see Macrae go on that 110 with less CBAs because he's not the preferred mid. They prefer Treloar in. Now, are they going to be conservative with Treloar when he comes back in? Maybe they don't give him full-time mid just because of his history of his body. Would you pay 570 for him? I'd be okay with that. I think he'll be thereabouts as a top 6 forward. I'd be happy with him. Is there a high priority on him? Probably not, just because I don't think the CBAs will always be there. So I'd be happy to get him in, but I'm not going to rush to get him in. But it is worth noting that 8 of the 9 next games are at Marvel or Mars. So yeah, conclusion for me is I'm not in a hurry to get him in, but I'd love to get him in if I could. Plus he has the bad buy, so I don't think I'll be getting him in. If I somehow can post-buy, then I will, but I'm not in a hurry. What do you think, JD?
Yeah, I mean, I tweeted out earlier this week that he's top 5 scores. 4 of them came without at least one of Treloar or Baz. And Treloar's the test for the hammy this week coming back, you would presume. And that does give me some concerns over Jack Macrae's scoring. But I am somewhat negatively biased as someone who started him this year and had to jump off because his scoring was so poor early on. So I'm kind of, I think, just my own sanity, hoping that he isn't a pick because Darcy had jumped off, he came good. Macrae had jumped off, he's kind of come good. But no, I have a feeling the scoring won't be there. It won't be as consistent once Treloar is back in the side alongside Baz, especially given they've been putting more CBAs into Baz. But look, he could be fine. I think in terms of where I've got him rated, I think I've got him in my top 7 or 8 forwards from here, and probably in the top 6 to be honest. But with the bad buy, it's not someone that I'm rushing to bring in given how my structure looks. I think if he was 50k cheaper, he'd probably be a really easy pickup. But where he's priced at the moment, I don't feel like he's a must-have. But if you can make it work for your buy structure, I think it's a nice point of difference from here on the run home. The other thing that is kind of underrated is his durability, and that's a little bit ironic given that we just lost Oliver. But I think that is something that you can give him the tick on that some of these other guys that we have in our forward line, such as Butters, Rosie, Dunkley, Taranto, don't have. They've all had injury history in the last few years. So I think that is something a little bit nice about Macrae that gives me a little bit more confidence in him as a pick on the run home.
Yep. That's definitely in his favour. The timing's bad. I obviously could have got him last week. Don't want to go spieling my team again. But that was, as a mid only. Before we, totally know what's going to happen. Treloar could be back this week. He's a test. And it's just bad timing, right? He's gone 140, 140, and you kind of want to see what happens when Treloar gets back with Baz and everyone in there, but you don't have that luxury. You kind of got to get him now if you want before he's 600, and that's just a bit of a risk. Plus that buy is an absolute killer. So I was really onto it, wanted to get him in, but as the days have gone past, the last couple, I've just don't see it as being viable for my team anyway. And I don't even have as many round 15 buy players as others. Like I think I've got 6 and maybe 7 if I'm keeping Sheasel. Yeah, and some people have 8, so I think I keep that advantage and don't raise the amount of players I have in that bias to maybe do better in that week and make up some ground. So, yeah. But unfortunately, it's going to be 600K for 2 or 3 weeks, and they've got a few Marvel games. Just got to see what happens, but it's going to be hard, I think. We'll get to some concerns. So any primos we think we have any concerns with, some people might have, and give our opinion there. So, I mean, Atkins, we spoke about him. Obviously not quite a premium.
Sorry, did you say primos?
Yeah.
Not quite a premium?
That. We'll just go with concerns. Yeah, not quite a premium. Not quite an AFL player.
No,
not anymore in my team. No.
I think the thing with Atkins is right. His role got scuffed. He got moved up onto a wing, and that was without Weller coming back. We already had concerns with him playing in kind of like that Dewey TAO stadium weather where he's been doing loose uncontested marking. It probably doesn't suit that type of style. And then being moved up onto a wing where he can get lost is not great. And then being subbed out is probably even worse. Is it Whiting that reports on the Gold Coast says he reckons Atkins plays again this week and they've been kind of happy, but I think it's one where I'd be pretty worried about holding him if they don't make any changes in the back half that would see him move into defense. Because if he plays up on that wing again, I'm not optimistic about what that scoring looks like this week.
Yeah. What are you doing with him, George?
I think the question is whether you get rid of him or not. I think you just take warm bodies. Break-even's not that high.
It's 44, right? So I think he's a safe hold for at least 1 week and you can kind of see what happens.
I will be trading. I need to get rid of somebody for Ford.
Oh, okay.
So it's either him or Chincotta. If Chincotta is not named, then I'll get rid of him. Just because, I guess it depends where you're at. Like, for example, I can just save a score here and get rid of like a Chester or a Sturt, but I'm not going to make any money off that, and that's not doing me any favors in the long term. So it's going to hurt me this week. But long term, I'm going to need that extra trade is going to be worth a lot more than 50, 60 points that Chincotta or Atkins might score. And both their last 2 scores were in the 20s. So I think Chincotta might have been 30. I can't remember. So I will happily offload if this role change continues. If I see Jeffrey and all those names back in the team, Jeffrey's a forward. There's no room for him in the forward line. They've got Gold Coast Academy forwards coming next year in the draft. I think they've probably recognised that and thought, well, let's try him at half back. So I'm okay to trade. It's a little bit ludicrous to trade a green dot this week, considering a lot of people's position, such as mine, but I'm just looking after the team long term. And I feel like I have to get Ford because I'm going to need his money to get my absolute final upgrade. So I'm very concerned. I think you can hold or trade. Ideally, you hold if you can, though, for sure.
Yeah. For me, now that LAIRDS back, I should have 18, even without relying on Chincotta. So, Atkins, you can get the hell out of my team. Regret that immediately and get his money, as you said. Like fixing a Roberts or a Rouston, who's in my team, and getting 40K out of him. Trades are valuable now, down to like my last, 12 or so, and using a couple of those this week. So, probably, rather get the money out of a player that I'll need to make an upgrade than do sort of a sideways there for, as you said, 50 points or whatever it ends up being. Shrek.
I think just the one thing on that, look into what trades you're going to do next week, because if you're not planning to make lots of trades next week, then holding Atkins with a break even of 44 and getting that extra score, getting an extra week of data, I think is fine.
Yep.
And then, trading him out. But if you're in George's situation where trading him to someone like Ford and that's the only way you have of doing it, then I think it's okay to move him on as long as you've got enough people playing this week. So I'd actually be, with the break even of 44, I'd be happy to hold him one more week if you weren't planning to use all 3 trades next week anyway, and you could move him on then.
Yep. Shrek, as we sort of said, out for medium term, long enough to be a trade, even though we're not sure. Briggs presents as a pretty clear pathway for Shrek owners. You can obviously go straight to Wits, but obviously he's a trade. No, there's nothing really we need to discuss there. It's more where you go. So what do you think of the Briggs thing, George?
I think it's an interesting case of what you can do here, because going down to Briggs means you just need another trade to upgrade him. So you're basically using 2 trades for sideways, essentially, what'll be in the long run. So going backwards in premium is never a good idea, but if you have the trades to do it, I probably would, because Briggs probably makes 150k by his buy, roughly that, maybe 120 to 170k, somewhere in that range, and then you can trade him to. Depends who you want. You could get a cheaper ruck like a Gorn. I don't think English is worth 600k in his current form, personally, especially with his body. You could go for probably Wits. Wits destroyed English on the weekend. I think he had 30 plus hitouts on him. I would pick between Wits and Briggs. If you have enough trades, I'd go to Briggs and then flip him to a ruck in his buy round. If you don't, I'd go straight to Wits.
What do you think on? Well, yeah, probably more Briggs, JD on or Shrek. What's the routes you like?
Oh yeah, I mean, trade I think is definitely the case, and then I've got similar notes I think to George's here, which is that I really like Briggs as a cash gen option and extra points on field up until that buy, but given most, like, you probably then have to figure out what you're going to flip him to at that buy, and I think that's kind of tricky because unless you've got someone like Darcy Cameron in the forward line as well, it's not obvious what that would be. But I do really like Wits as a premium upgrade to kind of differentiate yourself from English owners, and then also to take advantage of the buys on the way through. It is a little bit annoying that he's now more expensive than English, and that was like caught me by surprise. But he looks in good form, and obviously Gold Coast is firing at the moment as well. So yeah, I mean, Darcy's a trade. I think he can go to either English or Wits, whichever big premium option you like. But if you want to generate cash, take a little bit of riskier route, then I do really like Briggs as an option this week. And to be honest, if he had like forward status, I'd slam dunk bring him in this week. But because I've got Marshall and English, it doesn't really help my side to bring someone like him in.
Yep, fair enough. I do like the Briggs one, so I won't add any more to that. That's probably what I would advocate for as a Shrek owner. Works nicely. Steele, George. What as an owner do you think here?
I would.
Not much you can do, right?
If I could, if I had the trades, I'd flick him to Stewart this week. Save the donut. I'm considering it, but I can't do it because I'll just go cost money and I don't have the trades to do it.
Yeah.
That being said, I think part of the logic for picking Steele is at the time, cash gen looked quite bad for me. And all of a sudden, Weddle's come in, Ford's coming in, Humphreys come in. Cash gen is actually not, and Johnson's come back, scored a 70. All of a sudden, cash gen's not as bad as I thought it was, which was part of the reason why I felt inclined. I was actually going to go all 3 of Mills, Brayshaw, and Steele, basically, just because that felt like where I was at. So just watching Steele, I don't know if this was from the knee issue from a few weeks ago. I think the shoulder should be fine. He's still tackling. The tackle numbers are really, really high still. I think you back him in with the week off. He's still going 90 odd this year with a sub out game and the game where he hurt himself. The game he came back with 40% CBAs. When you get rid of all that, it's still around 100. So is he top 8? It's looking unlikely. Doesn't look like it, but you just hope that with a week off, that'll do him some good. So I think you hold him. If you don't have him, I think you anti-pot it.
Yep.
Because I reckon he's about 40% in the top 1% of teams, I think, something like that. It's actually quite highly owned.
Oh, wow. I'll check that. Well, what do you think, JD? I mean, it's probably the point where it's have him, just keep in hope, and don't have him, don't trade him in. Is that what you think?
For Steele, I've always been of these ones in the first buy that he was one that interested me most, just because I thought he'd benefit the most from a week off. I guess it was like some concern that St Kilda is starting to falter a little bit, and I don't know. We've seen these like black and white games from Steele where he looks good one week, looks poor the next. I wouldn't be trading him in like straight off his bye. I think that is one that you can wait another week, especially given that round 13 is that easy round for us to field players. So I'm not as worried about him. And I think his break even is going to be roughly around 138. But if he looks good that week and it looks like the week off's done him good, I'm still in favor of trying to acquire him as a target. They still have, I think, North and Hawks and West Coast on the run home. They have one of the softer fixtures, I want to say. So at his cheap price, I mean, if you need to get a cheap M7 or M8, looking at some combination of one of him or Mills, I still think makes sense. So I'm not out on Steele, especially if he gets to 5-10.
Yep. So it's the thing's kind of glitch. You got to go down to the fixture, but 138 break even, and then you can sort of see how he goes against Sydney if you're that way inclined off the bye, and then he'll be about 500, 510 as you said, with Richmond, Brisbane at Marble, then West Coast. So, maybe you get one more week of data, see how he is off the bye with a rest if you're still interested, and then attack him there. You don't have to go him straight up after the bye, which is nice.
Yeah, he'll be there at that price. And just quickly, his ownership, was 34%, and it's gone down 3% to 31%.
People trading
not
him
happy. Yeah.
Interesting that. So more than Brayshaw, actually, more than Walsh, others like that. But yeah, look, could still come good for him. Yeah, as you said, you boys said the rest might do him well. We'll go with Ashcroft first, I guess, and then get to the North boys at the end. I mean, if you have Ashcroft all this way, I'd probably consider keeping him for the bye rounds when he's back. So Hawthorn out of the bye, Sydney at the Gabba, as we know, where he does well. It's just pencil him in now. Like, it's genuinely hilarious now. All these good scores being at the Gabba, and it's continued for half a season, and not much else outside of that. So, Hawks at the G, if you believe that'll hold true. I mean, Hawks actually aren't an easy matchup in the midfield. They've been quite good, centre clearance and clearance, but you still could do all right there. But then, Sydney at the Gabba, Saints away, but then Richmond and West Coast both at the Gabba. So if you trust him and believe in him and think he can go well, especially for a young player, a buy will help. You could consider holding him even further and be your absolute last, rookie to get off field per se. What do you think, JD? I'll go to you first.
I mean, it feels like I've had the same take on Ashcroft for last month. If trading him helps your side, do it. If it doesn't, hold him. I think for those that are fine this buy and then could use him through the rest, that's great. But I do wonder how they're actually upgrading to premiums, or is he literally the last player they're going to have on field at M8 and do an upgrade post the last buy, and that gets them to someone coming off of maybe. But if you have a feeling he's going to be in your trade plans the next few weeks anyway, I'd just get rid of him now. But yeah, I don't think there's a wrong choice here. The fixture looks okay enough post buy that I'm not too worried about him leaking tons of cash. So yeah, either way, I'm happy with Ashcroft.
Yep. Anything, George?
No. Break even at 109. I think you can trade if you want, for sure. Yeah, it just depends how you feel you're going to go.
Yeah, if you're in a position to keep, then you're probably going very well, and that probably
you could even trade him to Neil this week if you're fine. Actually, no, you can just do that next week. You're probably not going to use 3 trades next week.
Yeah, depends on your team. And then the North boys. So we'll get both of their averages and whatnot up, but they've been killing it for most of the year, and then it's just the last couple of weeks for both is for different reasons gone a bit bad. So Zeeble was, I think, 88 the week before against Sydney, and then 71 this week against Collingwood. Dropped 33k. I mean, it was going to happen at some point, right? That 179 dropped out of his system. He was around 600k. He wasn't going to hold that forever. It's more of, are you concerned, or is it just a little, downfall, and is he still going to be a keeper? Because 170 break even now, JD, and if he goes even 100 against Essendon this week, he'll drop another 30k. So what do you see with Zeeble, and what's your thoughts?
So I still have him as keeper range. I think this has been a small blip. He's DT scoring has been fine across these last couple of weeks anyway. And it looks like with the AFL news tonight, I'd expect Clarko back soon, which I think should see maybe some restoration in scoring. yeah, like I think he's still a perfectly fine like D6 player. So he's someone I might buy flip during the buys if it works out for me. But some of the matchups during the buys are actually like pretty good in terms of like S and GWS Bulldogs. So I'm happy to hold him. I think I've got bigger issues elsewhere because the next player we're going to talk about in Sheasel, I think, is the one of the two that if you've got both, I'd rather be getting rid of. So
Yep. I guess you can talk about both Jords. You might as well pair them together with Shizu.
Oh, and just quickly, the other thing on Zibble is he's still taking the majority of kick-ins, right? Like he
Yeah.
had 6 of 8 last week. He had 6 of 9 the week before, and that does give you a little bit of floor. So yeah. Anyway,
Someone I wasn't watching intently, but didn't he not play on from about 70% of them for whatever reason? Like,
no, he had one. He had one. He didn't play on from 5 out of 6. He did.
oh, okay. So what were people saying?
Smoke and the copium.
If Locke's watching, you can. I think it was Locke. So good info, Locke.
But
Anyway,
they're
George,
trying to post hoc justify trades, but yeah, like you can trade him if you haven't got bigger problems, but I do.
I think I'll just keep him. I don't think there's enough to suggest he's a trade. I guess he's 32. You always worry about that. They play the Saints again in the back half of the year. Well, I don't know.
He's
like
32, but you just
weeks.
ride that until that matters, right? And
if it blows up, it blows up. I'll deal with it then.
You should have a trade then. Yeah.
All right.
And then you get Sheasel.
It's just I know you must be pretty thrilled with people talking about Zeeble as a trade.
No, it actually annoys me even more because I think there's no reason to trade him. Like, obviously, it's annoying that he's coming down right before his buy. Like, if you wanted to flip him, he's obviously going to be less money. But what's changed? Like, I think he just junked up late in the Collingwood game, so he didn't get many points for it, SuperCoach wise. I don't know. It's Collingwood. It's not like the easiest matchup in the world, even though they are dominant in a game. It's not, yeah.
I will say that if I'm definitely looking at in round 15, can I flip Sheasel and Zeeble to Dawson and Sicily? And if I can make that happen, I absolutely will. But it's going to be a lot of money. A lot of money.
Yeah, you need some bang for that. All right. Well, people want.
I'll touch on Sheasel quickly. I'll hold.
Yep.
I was trading him in my video, but I'm not trading anymore. I looked at his heat map. A lot of down
whole
back
second half
possessions.
Was down back, so
I just hold. Yeah,
Clarko coming back
for a bit. Yeah,
as JD said, maybe Shees gets down back and we get that back. Who knows? I'm sure they'll keep trying him up the ground at points, so we'll see.
I think Hall won't be in the team much longer as well.
Why easy, dude? Like, come on, what's the point? Got like, I don't know. Got blokes like Paul Curtis as the sub. I know it's a different position, yada yada, but like, they're clearly going to rebuild. Give some guys with some youth some time on the field. All right, we'll get through the last couple of things we do so we can get to some questions. As being a live pod, we obviously want people in the chat to get those answered. I don't know whose phone's ringing, but the rookies.
It's the timer in the kitchen. I think go wife's doing a bit of cooking at the moment.
The rookies. So we already spoke about Briggs. I think we like him if it helps your team. Like I kind of do want to get him, but he only scores for me on field this week, covering Rowan, and then after that he sits at R3, and he's basically just a non-playing rookie that makes will hopefully make 150 to 200k. So I still think that's viable in that sense, but it probably depends on how good your trades are, whether you go him knowing that you'll won't get scores out of him besides this week, and you'll have to obviously trade him out again. But the 200k could be really important for me. I'm not sure how well I'm going trades wise, cash wise to get a team. Like I'll get a team done, but obviously you want to get a team done with desired premiums, right? Not cheaping out for the last 3 or 4 and having a pretty average team. So anything else to add on Briggs, boys, before we get to some others? Or we kind of covered it all?
He looks good. We captained Marshall.
Any worry about Flynn? Because people might ask that question.
I think they've tried Flynn on and off, and they've been in and out of the team. So I think Briggs will hold for a while. I don't know for sure, but I think he will.
Bruce is still a TBC on his return from that back, so they don't have to worry about that. And Briggs has looked as good as Flynn has in any of these games this year. So I just don't see why they'd swap back. Flynn got dropped for a reason. I think Briggs has looked good. So unless Briggs really plays poorly, I can't see his job kind of being in danger in the coming weeks.
Yep. In the time that you need him, I think he holds for 2 or 3, which is all you'd need him for. Georgie Wardlaw. what do you see there, George? Like he's 190k, had a 50, I believe, on the weekend, around that 66 time on ground. From memory, a lot of people actually traded him in last week off the back of one game. Yeah, what are your thoughts on Wardlaw?
I was probably thinking about getting him in last week, but I'm quite happy to pass. Elevated price, limited preseason, LDU coming back soon. Had 9 tackles last week, this week just the 1. I think he'll be fine. Like he's definitely still an option, but he's one where there's probably not enough reason to grab him over Ford at the moment, given the break even. And like he could be your cover for the year as well, and cover through the buys. So I think he'll be an okay pick. They'll keep playing him for sure. He had a knee issue 3 weeks ago. We know how many hamstring issues he's had. So I think I'm just happy to pass. I think he'll be all right though. But
yeah,
I don't think his junior numbers were massive though. But I guess he would have had interrupted. I think it was like 88 DT average, whereas I think Ashcroft was much more than that. Yeah, he'll be a player for sure, but he's one I'll pass on. But I think he's still a good option if you need someone. I think the question is, do you go him or Briggs as your second downgrade? Because you'll get more scores from, most likely from Wardlaw. So I think the answer is, I think if you need the money, if you feel like you need more money, I think you go Briggs and just cop it over Wardlaw.
Yeah. It's interesting because if I was flush on cash, I think Wardlaw I do like as an option, because as long as he's fit, I think they'll continue to get games into him, and we'll see him kind of improve as the year goes on. And of course, he's getting a midfield role as well. I don't think North's matchups, I want to say, are too bad from here. Like it's Essendon, GWS, and then I can't remember who they're playing after that. Someone remind me. Dogs, which is a bit of a horror. But I mean, I think the thing is, like, they played the Pies, who are restrictive as far as midfield opponents go. So to judge him kind of harshly in that game, it feels a little bit unfair, to be honest. The one thing I do wonder about is, I mean, Wardlaw, Phillips, Powell have all really returned under Rutten. So if we do see a coach flip, what happens with the midfield? How do they restructure that? I mean, I can't see Clark coming back and then Wardlaw just being dropped or anything like that. But I do wonder how that changes things up and whether they muck around with his positioning or what goes on. But I think Wardlaw continues to build into the season from here. And if I didn't have money concerns or needed to kind of squeeze every penny, then I would actually bring him as a second rookie this week behind Ford.
Yep. If I was not going well the next few buys, next week's fine. But, probably more looking at 14, then you could go Wardlaw, and then I think he's just going to be a nice probably bench cover option from here on out. Whereas Briggs, I think, will make substantially a lot more money, in my opinion anyway, in the next few weeks. It's probably not a hot take, but yeah, so look, you only get one score out of him depending on your rucks, but I think most people have rucks that only get one score out of him this week, but I still probably lean towards him. Eddie Ford, we probably don't really need to say much about him other than he's been playing bloody well and looks a player. I think sort of came in for Curtis Taylor and sort of plays that wing high forward role and looks really good. So like you've got to get him in. It's as simple as that. Only a few people might have gone early and got a nice score from him last week, but yeah, got to make a heap load of cash for us to help our last upgrade. So get him in. McAndrew's the other one, or the last one, kind of. It's on the bubble, but it's not much of a bubble, is it really? Yeah, look, he's there. He's on the buy anyway, so you don't really need to get him this week. But 123k and his break even's 24 after 2 games. It's not the greatest.
No, he doesn't even jump when he rocks. He's a prospect.
I call him the praying
It's hard
mantis.
to
Looking
watch.
at him, he is long and skinny. Yeah.
And then Hickey came back into the team. So did they sub him off? I can't remember. I think they did very, very late.
Yeah, I think they did. And he barely played during the game. Anyway,
he needs to be solo rock to be.
Yeah, that's so bad. I thought you were talking about Mac Andrew, not McAndrew.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, Gold Coast boy, get some love in. But I'm like, he's not on the bubble, is he? But Yeah, okay, never mind.
I'll take
McAndrew, yeah.
SuperCoach anyway.
I think avoid unless he gets named for a game after they return from the bye.
Yeah, and we're desperate. And then there's Oisin Mullen, the old Irish boy who I brought in the first week of fantasy, and that actually wasn't too bad. And he actually looked quite good, honestly, because you know, I think he's played 3 games of footy ever. Jordan's like in the VFL, obviously Gaelic,
Yeah.
but good background. A lot of them do translate quite well, as we've seen. But Chris Scott, Geelong, it's hard. Don't get him in this week, please. They have the bye the week after, and then if he's named coming off the bye, I think we'd probably be stupid not to go him unless we have other good options. But until then, this is definitely a rookie you don't get early. But what did you say, George? Did you like him?
Yeah, it was good. I think our first half was better. Had a good attack on the ball. Made one bad clanger, I remember, like direct turnover. But I think he'll be okay. He did some nice things. Will he hold? Well, I don't know. For that reason, I'm not going early. And we'll get mid-season draft players come in, hopefully. And I don't know how many will play. It's probably unlikely we get any, to be honest. I think the only ones that have played recently have been I think one key defender played a few years ago because I think Carlton had no key defenders. And then Newcomb played, who I think already signed a contract with Hawthorn, so through their VFL program. I think he's the target in round 13 because if you go early and he gets dropped, I don't think people have Constable as well, so that's going to be quite difficult to carry those two for the rest of the year. Just wait and see. Yeah, lots of plays to come back for Geelong, and as we say in the Discord, Chris Scott is the top tier for SuperCoach terrorists in terms of ruining our SuperCoach team. So you cannot trust that man with rookies in and out. Doesn't matter if they play really well, he will still take them out of the team. We saw that with Nevitt. So it is what it is, and I'll wait.
If we get dry on content, we should get together and do a little SuperCoach terrorist tier list video. I reckon that would pop off.
I mean, D'Ambrosio was all right last year, and I think Will Snelling, the year that he came in, he had a few game stretch where he was handy as well. But I mean, yeah, I wouldn't bank on these 1 or 2K players saving a year. Even if they come in, it's usually only for a few games.
Yeah. Cool. All right. We'll get to the captains now. So while you boys look at that, I might quickly just have a look at some rankings. Locks in the chat. I know he was fraud with the Zeeble stats, but he is still second in this game. So we'll give him some credit there. So
not for long though. Not for long though. He just like Josh Kelly, you ride the highs and then you wait for the crash to the ground. That's where the airplane's going. Crash and burn, baby.
Airplane jelly. Yeah, you're right.
You're picking him next year, right, JD?
Probably. I got sucked in. Him, Ridley, and Whitfield.
Ridley as well.
Lock him in.
Redmond's coming home.
Yeah. More kick-ins. That's without Redmond. They're good.
But the leagues, yeah, they're not really going anywhere, are they? It's probably just a matter of the game is, can anyone catch the Hall of Fame league, which is looking unlikely, but
kind of want Regs to beat the Hall of Fame league.
Yeah, I would like it. Yeah, but we will probably wait and see on that.
I stacked the deck a little bit too hard with that Hall of Fame league, didn't
I? Disregard my team, but here's just for the fixture. Looking at captain. So, what do you guys think for those this week? We'll zoom in
Petrarca against Carlton with no midfield and no Oliver, obviously playing for the Ds. How are we feeling about that?
Yeah, I don't mind that at all if you've got him. I think he's a lot more inside, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I think
he posted those stats or whatever. So that's good for him.
Himself.
I'm thinking Walsh maybe in that game, possibly, but he hasn't been going nuclear, really just going, ticking along. So you're not really going to get that big score maybe from him, but is an option. Obviously, Butters and Rosie if you want to against Hawthorn, although Hawthorn actually haven't been too bad in the midfield and obviously recent form. So maybe at Adelaide Oval, that'll be different. Dacos against the Eagles.
Dacos can smell 3
standard one. Yeah,
we see Dacos.
So last week Essendon on West Coast, right? You had Redmond 144, Ridley 130, Nick Martin playing wing 120, and then Merritt 110, McGrath another defender 107. So 3 of those top 5 scores were out of defense. Then the 4th was wing and 5th was Merritt. So I think that's a pretty good sign for Dacos, given that he's playing kind of that halfback into midfield role. And yeah, being a more of an outside player, I'd say that bodes well.
Yep. Yeah, Degoe's had a few 3-vote performances lately, so Nick might just say, "Hey, I need to get some votes back, and West Coast might be a fairly easy chance." I mean, Bond. There's a lot of good options. You look at every game, and there's a clear standout like Bond against the Cats without a midfield at the minute, pending if Danger's back. Is he? I don't think he will be. Right, boys. So
Nope.
Bont looks nice there at Marvel against the Cats. Against probably they have no one that could really run with him besides maybe Blitzars if they choose to do that.
Yep. I remember him getting banged up in that game. Did he get through unscathed? Is he on an injury list with a time somewhere between now and when the universe fizzles out? Based on Geelong's injury list?
Not sure.
No, he's not on there. All right. No, he must be fine.
Just save that. So yeah, dogs against the Cats there. Maybe a Stewart if you want. Possible. Then Gold Coast, Adelaide, anyone from there. Rao's been in good form. Laird's free to play, boys, so we could look at that. Dawson.
It is going to be 31 degrees that day in Darwin.
So maybe that's a bad sign for Humphrey
for
too.
nothing.
That's a bad sign for Humphrey as well.
I think it says high of 31, but I think at night it'll go down to about.
Hang on, I thought it was a joke. George is actually really looking into it.
He's got the 7-day weather forecast out. The feels like temperature. What's it feel like, George?
It's a Google one, not Bomb one.
I think it feels like a 140, George. What about you?
I hope so. I think the.
I mean, 16 tackles last week and only 130. I was not got 115. Sorry, in this
good game for inside.
Yeah.
More of a DT game from him and Dorse last week, but I think I'm probably tossing up between. I think it's just Dacos and Tabon. I fully expect to take Dacos for me. I think Laird's a fine option.
Yep.
Bit dewy. Good for him.
Yep. It's Toronto against the Giants, and then there's obviously Merritt against North as a C in the last game, if you were that way inclined. So, yeah, we'll go final. What are you guys thinking at this stage? Obviously, we change it every day, but George, Dacos into Bont, JD?
I've currently got Petrarca into Dacos, but before that I had Dacos into Merritt, I think.
Yep. I'll get that back. Oh.
Hey.
I'm thinking Dacos as well, and then it's just about who's the backup. You know, is it a Bont or a Laird, possibly someone like that. So yeah, I think we're all looking at Dacos pretty closely. We haven't had many chances to VC him, really, have we? For whatever reason, the Pies have been Sunday merchants, but I think that's changing. Second half of the year, they'll get some more Friday night games and whatnot. So, right, we'll get to some questions. So, if anyone's still sticking around, it's 240 of you live watching here. We might do some questions for 10 or 15 minutes and then head off. So, one for you, JD. I did ask you last week about your boy Jordan Ridley, and he did back it up. And is he still 420K? That's not a bad price.
It's a very good price. And another one of those guys I started, which I traded out, and now I have to kind of hope to believe that trading him out was the right call. No, I'm not interested. No. I can see why people would be doing it to,
desperation
finish their sides. But what about Essendon's defense has changed that makes you believe that Ridley's suddenly going to be a premium from here to the end of the year? I just don't know what that is. I mean, the last couple of weeks, we've played a more heavy possession game, especially against Richmond. That was the case. I don't think that's the go-to game plan going forward for the Dons. And the defense more or less hasn't changed now from what it was at the start of the year. So we're kind of back to square one. So, yeah, no, I don't see a reason why he'd be a top scoring player from here. I can see why someone might go him to finish their side with the cheap D6, but no, it's a pass for me.
Quick word, George, or just obviously you have to be quite
really
desperate.
know.
It's almost like a straight swap from Ashcroft. If you
I would, if I might have no money, he's probably
the best one at that price.
Bet.
Yeah.
Now Dale's gone. He's like a 480. He was 440 the other day.
Redmond was 430. Ridley, it's -5. It's remarkable.
There's a cash cow. I think you'd probably get 85 to 90 from him for the rest of the year. Maybe if he continues.
I'd have him at 90.
Him more.
Peg him at 90.
I'd rather have Darcy Cameron at 470, and I'd rather have Jeremy Cameron at 450 with the better buy.
Okay.
Hot take on Jeremy Cameron, probably. But yeah, I like no
Yeah,
thanks on Ridley.
Yeah, depends what your team's like. A bit of DPP, you could go either of those. Yeah, we've all sort of said that Nick Dacos versus the Eagles.
Yep, love it.
Do we think Drew will play? Unfortunately, mate,
No,
that is
probably
not where
not.
you come to find that out, but probably not, unless they get an injury or so.
We don't know, but it doesn't stop us from
We'll comment
confidently saying
anyway.
that he won't play.
Yeah. Thursday, find out. What do you guys think Darcy Cameron averages from here to end of season, and would you trade him in for Sean Darcy? So I know we spoke about like Witts and Briggs being our preferred options. Would you go Darcy Cameron? Sit him in R2 for a little bit. Might help your buys. I don't mind it.
So I like Darcy Cameron as an option. Like just optically, I think the buy is probably the second worst one, which isn't great. The price is nice at 470. The break even's still highish, so you could wait a week, but they do play West Coast. We know BJ Williams is a really good one to score points on. So those are like just some initial considerations. Did I mention cover already? But like the ruck cover is nice. Just so I'd rather put him in the forward line than at R2. Or at least that's where my planning is at. I wouldn't really want him as a finishing R2. And then the last thing we're kind of looking for is has he gotten better or kind of over his injury since return? And do we believe that he can kind of get back to the scoring we've seen over the last, start of this year, back end of last year? And I'm just trying to find the CBA and ruck numbers, but he wears 67% CBAs against Carlton and then 77% this week. And he's gone in ruck contests 59% last week up to 88% this week. So we're seeing those trend in the right direction. And I definitely think in the back end of the game against North, he was back to looking like the Darcy Cameron we expected. The other thing I'll point out is that Carlton and North have been two of the harder ruck matchups this year. So for him to kind of return into those more difficult games, coming off injury, building his base kind of back up, I think it's all promising stuff. 470 is an absolute steal, I think. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the Darcy Cameron pick.
Yep, I think his tog's gone up as well, right, over the couple of weeks. So that's nice. George, any quick thoughts? We'll try and keep these quick.
Really cucked me early in the year with the injury, limited preseason.
And then for 8 weeks you were saying, I want DC. I'm planning for DC.
Yeah, because of ruck cover. I don't know. I think despite Cox playing so well, he returned to the forward role.
As a forward, yeah.
Do they switch that up at times? And even if they do, his floor should be 90 based on last year, I think. So I don't really feel comfortable going him this week, despite the numbers being good and the matchup being good. He'll probably be fine. I would rather wait a little bit just to make sure the ruck split holds, which I think it will, but yeah, I don't know. A bit of taste in my mouth. Yeah.
He is once again one of these players that if you don't want to go on him this week, it doesn't work for your trades. You could wait and do it as a post-buy flip. I think the reality is even if he kind of goes 100 and the kind of the next couple of weeks, he probably only gets up to 470.
Could be pretty close to Shees if he holds his price.
I mean, yeah. So it could be straight swap for a Zeeble or a Sheasel or something like that in the last buy. And I think that's a pretty valid path as well if you want to wait and see. But I think if you're planning on trading him before his buy, then this is probably the week to do it, just given the matchup against BJ Williams.
Yeah.
There's a very good chance he beats the 129 break even.
Yeah, he could. Is it worth upgrading the underperformers in the buys to avoid donut scores but end with a couple less trades? So, yeah, flipping. If you're going to end on 4 trades instead of 6, I think that's fine. You might be in a decent trade position. So,
yeah. So
it's probably want more injury.
I think the important part of this question is how many trades are you comfortable coming out of the buys with, because that then gives you the answer to are you happy with 4 instead of 6. So, Eno, let's start with you. How many trades ideally would you have coming out of the buys?
I think it is 4. Like the buys this year coming out of them is around 15, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like it's 2 months. There's been a lot of injuries and suspensions this year, but obviously you probably would hold 1 week suspensions on the run home. It'd just be injuries. So 4 for me, injury trades.
And that's of course assuming that the rest of your team is premium. These are 4 injury trades post completed side. George, where are you at?
I'll finish on 4, I think, but that is with Day Sheasel. So I would hope that I might, depending on what rookies on the bench make, I might be able to get like a DC at 23rd primo, but it's probably optimistic. So I think the answer is probably 4. I feel comfortable with. I think last year I was 3, and I ended up using 2, and I had 1 left, and I went Petrarca to steal and lost 100 points. So dumb. So look, you could get away with 3. I think probably wouldn't go lower than that. I think comfortable 5, probably 4. I think 4.
Yeah, it is a really tricky one to answer because if you have leftover spare trades at the end of the year, like you finish the last round or go into the last round with 1 or 2 still, and you're just doing the sideways trades that you're talking about, George, then you did lose points during the buys where you could have traded them for another player and got somewhere between 50 and 100 points, right? At the same time, if you run out of trades in the back few rounds and you're copying zeros or rookie scores where you could have got a premium score, it goes the other way and you go 80. So finding that balance is always hard, and it does come down, I think, a little bit to the luck of the game. How many injuries, how many suspensions, etc. do you get over the back half of the year? I'd say 4 is the lowest amount I want to finish the buys on with a full team. 5 is probably the aim, which would be quite nice, especially given that the bench cover is bad, because it's not like in other years where you cop a 1 week injury, you don't have to trade it, but then we get a really good rookie score on field. Like, I just don't think that's going to be the case for many people's benches. So I kind of would rather go 5, just so you can even, trade 1 week as kind of aggressively towards the back end of the year.
Just quickly, would you go down to 3 by sidewaysing Sheasel in round 15 if that got you an extra score?
Yeah, depends on the quality of the person you're bringing in as well. Like if you're going Sheasel to Dawson, Clary, Sicily, these really big, heavy upgrades, I think that's a yes. If it's just sidewaysing to someone that's a little bit scuffed, you're not even sure if they're going to be top 10 of their line for forward or defense at the end of the year, like that's probably where I'd avoid. I think the one you probably have in mind, George, is like, would you do it to Darcy Cameron and go down to 3? That's probably a question that we answer then.
Yeah.
I mean, that obviously, need more data on Sheasel too. There's 2 parts to that, I guess. Yeah. My biggest thing in this question I just saw is he has creeps. Like, man, I would have got rid of him hopefully last week with the 200 break even. I think it was, but it's almost like too late now. I think he's like 490. Like,
he's 497. Oh wow,
I think you just got to hold him back
keeper.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
Right.
Revenge game this week after the news. So, but I mean, I think he's carrying something. We called it out a month ago that there was reports that he was getting injections, and it looks like he's back to a few years ago where he was just underperforming, and you didn't really know why. And I just have a feeling he's carrying something.
Yeah. Cameron to forward. Yep, get it done,
Tick
mate.
it off.
Don't really have any trades to do this round. Is holding good. I mean, if you already got forward, I'd say that's fine.
Yep.
Because he's probably the must-have. How much does he get to for his buy?
I think with 60s, about 270, 65 with
240 to 270, something around there.
Yeah.
I mean, even with they've got him projected for 54, 54, 49, and he gets to 244, so it's 120k with poor scores.
Yeah, thoughts on Clive Rose? Nah, thanks for killing Shrek. I'll take a bit of offense to this. Like, I was enjoying them watching the man play, not being my team, and I was at the game. It's hard to watch one of my favorite players go, like, him hobbling off with the hammy, just bad scenes, and I don't think he was too happy on the bench either. And they actually turned a corner for you. I sort of haven't been noticing that the last few weeks. They've been coming good. He's their, first, option in the ruck that gets first hands on the ball. So I think it's bad for them. Like, yes, Jackson's there. That's why they got him. He's going to help. But as a pure tap ruckman, that's not sort of his game. So might affect your Brayshaws and Sarongs for a few weeks, a little bit. So I'm not happy about that either. Thoughts on Fife? I think, look, Callum Ward, probably
Fife.
without looking, don't really want to look.
I like Fife as an option next week.
Yeah, I think JD is one I'll point to there. Like, he seemed to fade out a bit in the second half. But he's fairly cheap. Like, he's 244, 27 break even it'll be up against Richmond coming off the bye. And is O'Meara's challenge tomorrow? Did they push that to tomorrow?
They did. Yeah, they did.
So we'll find out there. That might be good for 1 week. It's more mid-time, him and MJ. But what do you think? JD likes him, George. What do you think?
Do you want Fife for cash gen or cover for the year?
It's cover, surely, for the rest of the year.
I think it's a hedge both ways. Like, I I think he'll be both good cash gen. I think the problem with having him as cover for the year is like his injury history is obviously terrible, and that's the risk that you take with it. He's still not even really back to full flight now, but the week off I think helps a lot, and he's back to getting the midfield role where he's been able to do hundreds easily in the past. Freo is also picking up in form a little bit, and yes, they don't need him as much, but I do see. Once he's kind of back up there and playing properly, it's hard to see him going less than 80s. I really think so. At his price, to me, it almost feels like a no-brainer, and he's going to play the remaining bye games, especially the hard ones, assuming once again that he's fit. I think I want to say in that game he had something like 10 contested in the first half and then one after halftime. So definitely ran out of gas, but looked really good early. And I think they continue with him in the midfield. So, yeah, I like him at 244 as an option next week. I will definitely consider it based on what happens with teams and trades and how I finish out my side from there. But yeah, I in fantasy, I'm almost definitely bringing him in next week. That's currently the plan. So yeah, yeah, that's a risk I'm willing to take.
Yep. Any last thoughts, George?
Can't do injury prone, paying up for it. I can't do it. Not in position to.
Yeah.
What does he score if he stays fit?
70.
75 to 80, probably. Does he get subbed off at times?
Maybe.
If the game's over? I think he does. I don't know. I don't think JL's really shown to sit players. I know like Ross Lyon has, and I guess the Crows sort of had with Laird, but I can just see him being subbed off. I think, yeah, you can do a lot worse, but you might get like a rookie that is covered for the rest of the year. Like maybe Matt Roberts comes back. I think he's 5 to 6 away. Maybe he can just produce 60s on the bench and save a trade.
Strong doubt.
That's hopeful. But yeah.
I will say the other thing is like,
wrong as well.
Freo's bye matchups, I have a feeling, are pretty good as well.
It's Tigers off the bye.
Richmond.
Yeah.
Tigers, GWS, Essendon, I want to say. So there's some matchups that Freo should reasonably win and be all right for midfielders.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll move past him. Maybe see what happens off the bye. How you looking?
Callan Ward's just a no, by the way.
Yeah.
Ward was a 4 until they got injuries.
Yep, and he played 64% CBAs this week, but I don't think it translated to good scoring from memory.
Nor does it hold when guys are back.
Yeah.
He had 2 games with CBAs at the start of the year. One of them was 124, the other 72. So he's kind of had like 3 games around this little CBAs, and 2 of them have been in the 70s. Like, I'd avoid Callum Ward.
We'll speed through a few more, try and get through as many as we can. Thoughts on trading in a Walsh for Ashcroft? Not ideal with the bye, but good fixture. We may only get Brayshaw next week, other than Brayshaw and Neil. If you get enough plays this week, I'd maybe hold off and go for Brayshaw and Neil, so you get more scores throughout the bye. I mean, yeah, just see how you look for round 15. Like, I wouldn't go Walsh if it's going to kill you. Like, just weigh that up with your team. Best Darcy replacement. We've sort of spoken about this before, but if it's a primo, probably Witts just due to buys if you trust him, and then if not, down to Briggs. So I think they're our 2 most favoured routes. Is DC an option? Yep. Scroll back a bit. We did speak about him. Is Paddy Dow an option? Look, probably not, because he'll only come in to cover off some injuries and then leave, and he's 250k midfield only. So I'll say no.
Paddy Dow is never an option.
Yeah. Do you see MJ playing post bye? Yeah, he's got to believe clubs, surely. He chose to stay, didn't he? Through all the offers.
No, I think they had him on offer, and Essendon took Setterfield instead.
Okay.
I think the contract situations were different, but yeah. Anyway,
MJ will play.
MJ will play. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't play, especially if Amira misses a week.
If Chicotta doesn't play, worth downgrading. Look, if he doesn't get in this week, then he can be a trade to whoever you see fit. Because if he's not getting in this week, he never is.
Yeah, so if I've got 284k banked at the moment, and if Cincotta doesn't play, I'll probably move him to Darcy Cameron. I don't really have any other way of getting to D-Cam, but if Cincotta isn't named this week with all his injuries, he's in the doghouse, he ain't getting the game for the rest of the year, I'm happy to move him on.
Yep. Which primos are the best for this week? I guess I'll probably say Stewart, just because if you don't have him by now, he's going to be really good buy help. So maybe him. Then maybe Rory Laird, because he's bloody playing this week. But look, buys as plays a factor here. So bit of a hard question to answer, I guess. But Stewart probably stand out. Like if you didn't have him, I'd probably be getting him now. 587.
Like the Freo boys too.
Freo boys too off the buy, but that's obviously not this week.
Yeah. Neil, I guess, the consideration. But yeah, I think Laird's the one that has, he's lost 100K from his starting price. He has tonned up, I want to say, like the last 5 games in fantasy, and it's something like he's tonned every game since round 5 in SuperCoach bar 1 where he got a 98, and his break-even's down at 88. So Laird, for me, that's a very long way of saying, like, I think Laird's a no-brainer. And not to forget, many of those Laird games, he was benched for a quarter or had low time on ground, whatever it is. And he's at the point now where it looks to be over all of that stuff. So, Laird probably is the standout for me in terms of like value, break even, and turnaround potential. But yeah, that's assuming that you've got Stewart, which with buys, I think becomes the most obvious one. And I think that's part of the reason why Wits is somewhat attractive as well, just for buys. Beyond that, I then think it comes down to like where you can find value, because that still does seem to be important. And in defense, it's really hard to say, because maybe it's Doherty if you can fit that buy. He is pretty good value still, right? Like 560K. And then in the forwards, I don't think there's anyone that stands out apart from maybe Macrae. Once again, it comes down to whether or not you could fit that buy. Otherwise, DCAM's a nice value option, but he's not as obvious as a primo. But there you go. There's one for each line.
Yep. Cool. Merritt's still worth it his price, so he can wait. Look, he's kind of gone up a bit now, but he's still worth it.
Yeah, 72. So 72 break even. Another one that's going to go up in price. He's got a plus matchup this week. Essendon's run home is still easy as well. It's still a good one, especially if you've already got Laird.
Yeah. Bit of a weird one, but what are your thoughts on going Brayshaw this week to get Neil or Sarong next? So you know, obviously he's targeting 2 guys that he wants.
Fine.
I think it's fine if you're good for this week. Buy around, good.
Yeah, I mean, and like the way to think about this is any premium that you bring in now is going to miss 1 game in the next 4 weeks. So if they miss it now and you can cover them fine now, then do it, because you don't know if you're going to be able to cover someone missing the round 15 by if injuries and whatnot happen. So if you're in a good spot now and those are the guys you want to target, I'm all for doing it now, as long as you're still fielding like that 9-10-20 range.
Look, we can't predict this, but signs were good on the weekend. Humphrey's CBA, so we'll see. Took's out for still a long time, so maybe it seems like they're going to try him out in there. Whether he holds up in there or, you know, his cramping doesn't come back, who knows? But who knows? At least it looks like they're, you know, that's the way they want to go for now, and give him a go. He looked quite good in there in the first half, so we're all owners, so we're all hopeful for that anyway. But
if you have him, you just assess if you can. I don't think you can keep him, but
he won't be
scoring better than Day lately. So I don't know.
Yeah, don't remind me of that.
Is it too late to bring him in for those that missed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thought so, but just worth saying, just in case there's anyone that's asking.
Yep. Worth going JVR to a Briggs. Like it's obviously sideways in price, but you're at least going to get a lot of cash out of Briggs.
I think it
10
comes
trades,
once again.
3 upgrades though.
Comes down to buy situation as well. So if you've got Marshall and English, Briggs gets you 1 score this week, which you're probably already fine for, and then gets you no other scores for the rest of the buy. So you're just getting him in for cash, which I don't love as an option. So I think Van Ruin's break even's 48, I want to say as well. So it's not like he is going to go down in cash. So, or at least like shouldn't dramatically go down in cash this week, especially against a poor Carlton side. So given your trade situation as well, even if you can go 1 up, 1 down for your last 3 upgrades, you're going to 6. JV out of Briggs takes you to 9 already. So yeah, I mean, I'd say it's a no. Just on what I can see there, that looks like a no.
Yep, I'd agree. He'd be going to very low trades, I think.
I mean, if he has no money and that's his only way, I'd probably still do it and send it to 3 trades left.
You could send it to, Goes back to that other question before. What trades, you know, post finishing your team, how many are you happy with? Would you upgrade Mason Wood? Look, yes, I
Yeah.
absolutely would. I don't know what he's averaging anymore. He
He's
actually hasn't.
453k.
He's actually good for a while, but he's not.
He's
just
at
in that
96
awkward
average.
range.
Yeah.
Just an awkward range.
I mean, his
Where-
form's dipped with Saints, right?
Yeah. So I mean, Led's playing. If you aren't unaware of that, which is nice. So I'd probably just get
Don't
rid
trade
of Wood.
consistently.
Yeah, just sort of spoke about that before. I think maybe a tad, but Luke Jackson's there. It might not affect them too much. So hopefully they're all good, but it's not really anything we can do about it anyway. You're not trading him. Thoughts on trading in Degoe and VCing him? Yeah, I'm a bit annoyed I didn't do it last week as a bit of a points and pod cash play. I was honestly thinking about he was in my team and I just backed out of it. But I think you've missed the 150 against North. He goes West Coast this week, I know, but he's not going to be a season keeper, I wouldn't imagine, or at worst M8 who does 100 to 105 if everything goes right and he doesn't misbehave. But probably not, guys. What do you think? No?
Looking better than Steele, to be honest. I don't know. I just disrespect of the pick for a long time, and it's not going to change. He gets injured all the time, but look, he looks all right. Oh, I just pretend he doesn't exist, to be honest. That's just how I am.
Oh, I picked up this man over Will Brodie last year, and that caused me so much pain. And it looks like right move, wrong year. But no, I think Degoe's a no for me. Even in the value range, I think there's probably better options. Like I think I'd still rather Steele post buy than Degoe. So I think it's a pass for me. I don't mind it as a risky option though.
Can I just say, I hope we're all one day like in our 60s having a drink together, and you guys are still going to be bringing up Will Brodie.
It's so fuck George.
I know.
He's not even in the team, man. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
my god. All right, let's help a fellow.
Do you know the worst part is, right? I was at the end of last year. I'm like, I can't wait for it to be 2023 and to never have to think about Will Brodie again. But because he's going to be mid only, like kind of irrelevant, he'll do 100s, whatever. But the fact that he's not playing actually makes it so much worse. Like it's just the drop off is so bad. Oh dear.
Let's help this guy out. In the top 150, he has 10 trades. If he does Roberts to Ford, Teakle he has to Briggs. Do I downgrade the likes of Jimby or Atkins? I like green dots.
Look after the final team instead of getting rookie scores on the field. I think that's my view.
Yeah, can you swing Teakle to Ford instead of doing like you might just have to just hold Roberts and accept that? I don't think he is.
No,
he's not playing though, right?
No, but I think I'd rather go Teakle to Ford, right? Get the money instead of
okay.
Yeah.
Instead of sidewaysing Roberts to Ford and sidewaysing Teakle to Briggs, you're not really getting anywhere.
Yeah.
And that takes you to 8 trades. It's like, not sure how many upgrades you have left to do, mate, but
yeah, so the problem with something like Roberts to Ford is there's no cash in it. And so if you still need an upgrade and you're running low on upgrades, it's just not that valuable getting the extra green dot in unless you're really desperate for them. But what is the round where people tend to need extra green dots? It's the last round when Ford's going to be missing. So yeah, I just wouldn't be doing Roberts to Ford. I think Teakle to Ford, as you guys suggest, is a probably better idea.
It might not be possible. Yeah, might not be possible.
Yeah,
that's tough. I don't know how many upgrades you have left, but is that Jinby? If you still have, maybe you just get rid of him, get his cash.
Yeah,
336, 78 break even, highs match up.
Give me the Ford.
Yeah.
We actually really need someone to run the diminishing returns are going from 19 to 20 players on a given week. Like how many more expected points do you get? Because I have
knocking off the worst one or whatever.
Yeah. Or like, they're knocking off the second, they're knocking off the third, because I think it's diminishing returns. Like you probably get like 50 points or maybe like 30 to 40 points on that going from 18 to 19, but you get
not
like
much more
10
after
or
that.
20 or unless it's a disaster week. So I just think like people do overrate green dots a little bit, especially when it's bad rookies that are taking up those last green dot spots.
Yeah, it's whatever. Yeah.
So yeah, if you're already sitting at 19-20 this round, I'd just future buy plan rather than try and get more on for this week and next week, which are largely irrelevant rounds.
Yeah.
In terms of buy planning for you.
I think someone asked this, but yeah, look, if he doesn't get picked, go to whoever you want.
Yep, that's fine.
I might have clicked the same one actually because it went up on me. Constable.
Not playing.
Can we stop bringing up Constable?
I think
Unfortunately,
Big Fish
guys,
said he wasn't playing.
I think interesting move is like he got moved back to half back in the twos this week. Because they when he went back originally they played him in the midfield and they've put him back into half back. So who knows what's going on there? But yeah, they're clearly trying to find a role for him, I guess.
I only read the last part of that comment.
Yeah, pretty good fun.
Would it be worth going from Marshall Gorn to Marshall Briggs this week? Oh, hang on, sorry. Okay, so I'm not sure why Marshall's mentioned twice, but
I think
this is just Gorn to Briggs.
Be something else.
Marshall to Gorn to Marshall.
Sorry, maybe he traded out of Marshall to Gorn, and then he wants to go to Marshall. I don't know,
JD. Yeah, sorry,
unless he's a big fan of Todd
Not
Marshall.
English.
A couple more, then we'll wrap it up here. Thoughts on this trade? Sheezel, Warple, and Baker out for Neil Brayshaw and a rookie. 6 trades, 2 upgrades left.
Next week. Oh, yeah, next week, yeah.
I mean,
6 trades, 2 upgrades, bruv. That's too low.
No,
you gotta keep Sheezel
sideways. I think, yeah, you've got to keep him, mate, and just do Warple and Baker to preferred primo and rookie. I think just hold the Shees. Think if you're looking okay, maybe we flip him later, but could be some more injuries, suspensions. Who knows, mate? With the world that is AFL. Rat, look, he was going to give you cover in the buys, which he's not anymore. So probably a trade, mate. And it's going to, he's out for 3 to 4, I'd say anyway, or at least 3. I think they said so.
I thought they said it was on the lighter side. So, like, optimistically, he does a Clary, comes back after his bye, but it's too big of a risk. And his break even, I think, is up in the 90s now anyway. I think it's someone you just cash in and move on from, to be honest.
I agree. Not sure if a troll, but can we never mention Rory Atkins again either? It's not too late for him. And then big fella.
For his career, yes, it's too late for him.
Luke Jackson is a ruck forward. Probably not. He's already at 500k, I think. So
yeah, too expensive.
You could grab him in fantasy for 700k next week. I think that's not the worst play.
Maybe we should start talking about fantasy more. I'm kidding.
That one thing that is fun about fantasy is you do get to talk about random players a little more.
You do get to go for these picks.
It's less about just straight rookies and keepers. You get more of the value options, which is a bit of fun. But I think he's already fully priced because he had a couple of good weeks before this one coming up. And it's not like Darcy's out for the rest of the year. It's only a few weeks.
Yeah. Reece brings up a good point. If you're struggling, Mills could be an option once he comes back and drops with a 177 break even. Bit risky, like what the type of injury you had, right? But
no,
could be. Yeah, I know George would say no. I mean,
so the answer is yes. I've had him in a lot of my buy plans to get as a cheap M8 because I think at the low 400s price is just ridiculous, despite the injury risk. The problem is, even after the injury list update this week, he's still listed as 2 to 4. So he misses 1 next week. He's then probably not coming back the week after. So he's realistically only coming back in round 14. We get to see 1 game where he then has that big price drop, and then it's round 15. So I don't see us getting him like earlier than round 15, to be perfectly honest. So maybe it is a last round buy flip that you could look at, but I almost feel like planning to have him at this point is risky in and of itself. It feels like a backup option rather than a plan A.
Yep. Just assess, like, don't have him in your plans, as JD said, and see what happens. But calf, it's a bit risky, and he already hurt me
seen
this year.
Bose and Short redo theirs.
Yeah.
And
like
my timeline then, my timeline of round 15 is assuming that he's optimistically back just in the 2 range of that 2 to 4. Anything longer and it blows it out even worse. So yeah, he's just a plan B at this point.
Beautiful. No worries. Thanks, everyone, for tuning into the live pod. We might do a couple here and there later on. We might even do, I'm thinking maybe one night on a Sunday night, the old instant reaction pod. But obviously, everything's got to line up for that. But yeah, once again, thanks for joining in the chat. I do like Tuesdays. We get the old MRO updates, the injury updates, so we're able to talk a bit more about those things. But yeah, any final things to say, JD? The Heat made the finals.
Yeah, boy.
Heat
Yeah,
versus the Nugs, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I was venting in Discord today that I watched all of the Heat losses and worked through all of their wins. So I
Work through
don't
the
know.
finals.
I feel like I shouldn't watch any of the finals games at this point. So we got a bit of a shot.
Yeah. I'm happy just getting the home court right. Like, just helps. They can still stay in Denver. They've been there for a week. Might be a bit of rust. I know. I guess that old rest versus rust phenomenon. Haven't played. I feel like forever since I've watched the Nuggets play, but should be interesting. I do love seeing the Boston sports fail. I won't lie to you. It's a bit like just all the melts. Like they're all just the biggest diehards and obnoxious fans in the world. So don't mind it. They got a bit of hope, and then that just got crushed anyway. Like it's the greatest way to happen.
Definitely not earning any fans with this, but as a Heat fan, like Celtics are my least favorite team and have been for a very long time. So happy to get the win over them, especially as the 8 seed as well. It's a nice little story.
It's cool couple of stories. Not Lakers Celtics, so I'm happy.
Exactly. Small market teams, which is why we're all rooting for a GWS final against the North in the coming years, right?
Not on the AFL.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, AFL, let's keep it to Richmond Essendon. Got it.
No, just not GWS. Anything to add, George? Anything interesting?
Not really. Go Crom.
Go Laird.
That's basically it. Go my fantasy team or SuperCoach team.
Does Crom get up against Gold Coast? I'm wondering if Crom are in the same boat as like Brisbane this year, which is like their home ground Giants and their no bueno went away.
Be interesting.
I don't know. I don't think we're that bad away. We've been in basically every game except for the Dogs game in Ballarat.
Would you be better in a game like that where it's probably a lot of contest and stoppage with conditions, or are you better whether it's like clean footy?
I honestly think I don't know if it's like Dawson and Laird are missing it. Like Laird was number one for score assists. They're missing the inside 50 targets, both of them. There was one moment where Laird passed backwards so Dawson could kick it inside 50 when he could have kicked it himself. I don't know. I think this year we've played better in better conditions. So I don't know. See how we go.
I mean, the Crom fixture's been crazy as well. You've only had 4 away games so far. It was like round 1 against the Giants, round 6 against the Hawks and Taz, round 8 against Cats and Goomba, and then Bulldogs a couple weeks ago.
Well, we haven't played West Coast or North yet. We double up on West Coast and play North, so
that's nice.
Should be nice.
Yep.
3 wins, you would think.
Yep. And 2 of those are at home, so definitely. Third West Coast away last round. That's a loss. You need the win in or something, or the win in the top 4, and you're going to choke it.
Mate, that was 2006, I think. And then we beat West Coast away and lost in the Ben Cousins went nuts. Anyway, that's another story.
Lairds free to play. It's put a smile on all our faces because it was looking a bit dire, but hopefully others like Chincotta come in, give us an extra warm body and some cash. Chess. Surely you just don't want to worry about him anymore. Thanks for watching, guys. We will enjoy the week ahead, and we'll catch you for some team videos. I might stream again, not sure. But we'll good luck in round 12. So, thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you in the next one.